There are hidden truths about money, power, and success that nobody wants you to know. Truths so uncomfortable, schools avoid teaching them, parents stay silent about them, and society buries them under cliches like work hard and be grateful. But here's the brutal reality. The system is designed to keep you average, obedient, and broke. Today, I'm going to expose the 8 most dangerous money truths that can either trap you for life or set you free forever. Listen carefully, because once you hear them, you can't unhear them. Part 1. School creates workers, not wealth builders. You spent more than a decade in school solving equations you'll never use, but not one single lesson on how to build wealth. That wasn't an accident, it was a setup. Look back at your school days. The morning bell, the lines in the hallway, sitting quietly in rows, raising your hand just to speak. When you really think about it, school wasn't just teaching you information, it was training you to obey. This wasn't random. The education system was designed during the Industrial Revolution, a time when factories needed disciplined workers. Workers who showed up on time, followed orders, and didn't question authority. And that's exactly what schools still produce today. Not free thinkers, not wealth builders, but obedient employees. Ask yourself, how many classes prepared you for real life? Did you ever learn how to do taxes? How to buy a home? How to manage debt? How to start a business? No, you were taught how to memorize facts, pass exams, and get in line for the next stage of the system, a job. Meanwhile, the wealthy play a different game. Their children don't learn the same way. They go to private schools where they're taught leadership, public speaking, finance, and investment strategies. They're shown how to own companies, not just work in them. While the average student is being trained to become an employee, the wealthy are training their kids to become the bosses. And that's why the cycle repeats. The rich keep getting richer, not because they're smarter, but because their education prepares them for wealth. The rest are left with degrees, but no real financial power. Think about it. You spent hours on geometry, algebra, and essays about Shakespeare. But how many hours did you spend learning how to negotiate a salary, how to invest early so your money grows, or how to avoid the trap of debt? 0, and that's the trick. The system was never designed to teach you freedom. It was designed to teach you obedience, and the effect is everywhere. People graduate confused, anxious, and unprepared for real life. They enter the workforce desperate for jobs, grateful for small paychecks, and afraid to take risks, because that's how they've been trained, to play it safe, to follow the rules, to never challenge the system. Here's the brutal truth. School didn't fail you by accident. It succeeded at exactly what it was built for, to create workers, not wealth builders, to prepare you for a life of clocking in and clocking out, not for financial independence. But here's where the story can change. Once you see this design for what it really is, you have a choice. You can keep playing the role the system gave you, or you can re-educate yourself. Self-education is the new superpower. Read books on finance. Study how money works. Learn from entrepreneurs and investors. Every hour you spend teaching yourself what school never taught you is a step away from dependency and a step closer to freedom. Because here's the hidden truth. Freedom isn't handed to you. It's learned, earned, and built. The school system gave you enough to survive, but now it's your job to learn how to thrive. Part 2. Compound interest, weapon or superpower. The same force that makes the rich richer is the same force that keeps millions trapped in endless debt. That force is compound interest. Compound interest. Most people have heard the phrase, but very few understand how dangerous or how powerful it really is. At its core, compound interest is simple. Money grows on itself. Let's say you invest $100. Next year, you don't just earn interest on that $100, you earn interest on the interest it already made. Over time, that small snowball turns into an avalanche. That's why Albert Einstein supposedly called compound interest the 8th wonder of the world. And he was right. For those who understand it, it becomes a superpower. For those who don't, it becomes a lifelong trap. Think about this. Warren Buffett built most of his fortune not from sudden miracles, but from starting early and letting his investments grow. He once said his wealth comes from a combination of living in America, lucky genes, and compound interest. In other words, the The secret wasn't magic, it was patience, time, and the power of compounding. Now let's flip the coin. Because compound interest doesn't just work for the rich, it works against the poor. Credit cards, student loans, mortgages. Every time you swipe that card or miss a payment, interest stacks on top of interest. What starts as a small amount turns into years, even decades, of financial slavery. Here's a brutal example. If you owe $5,000 on a credit card with a 20% interest rate and only make minimum payments, do you know how long it would take to pay off? Over 20 years. And by the end, you won't just pay $5,000, you'll pay more than double, maybe triple, depending on the terms. That's compound interest working against you. The wealthy know how to make compound interest work for them. The banks know how to make compound interest work against you. That's the game. Every time you're in debt, your hard-earned money is compounding in someone else's pocket. This is why the gap between rich and poor keeps widening. The rich are compounding assets. The poor are compounding liabilities. One group multiplies freedom, the other multiplies chains. And here's the twist. No teacher ever explained this to you. Why? Because if you understood compound interest deeply, you'd stop being the worker feeding the system and start becoming the owner building wealth. The silence around money in school wasn't accidental, it was deliberate. So what do you do now? You learn the rules they never taught you. Start early if you can. If you can't, start anyway. Small, consistent investments compound over time. Even tiny amounts grow into something massive if you let them sit. At the same time, kill the debt that compounds against you. Credit cards, high-interest loans, they're poison. The faster you get rid of them, the more freedom you unlock. Think of compound interest as a double-edged sword. Hold it the right way and it protects you, builds for you, multiplies your wealth. Hold it the wrong way and it cuts you down slowly, year after year, until you realize decades of your life was sold to debt. Here's the truth. Compound interest doesn't care about you. It's just math. It doesn't take sides. It's either your greatest ally or your most brutal enemy. The choice is whether you control it or it controls you. Part 3. Money equals power. They told you money isn't everything. But look around. Who makes the rules, the broke or the ones holding the money? Let's get brutally honest. People love saying money doesn't buy happiness. It sounds noble. It sounds comforting. But deep down, everyone knows the truth. Money might not buy happiness directly, but without it, you're chained. And those with money? They're the ones pulling those chains. Money isn't just about comfort. It's about power. The power to decide how you live, where you live, and what kind of choices you even get to make. Think about it. Without money, your choices shrink. You can't choose the best healthcare, you can't choose the safest neighborhood, you can't choose the best schools for your kids. Your options are dictated by survival. But when you have money, you don't just choose, you control. Look at society. Who influences laws? Who funds political campaigns? Who owns the companies that set the prices for everything you buy? It's not the middle class, not the poor. It's the wealthy. They shape the world to benefit themselves, and they use their money as the lever. This is why so many people stay stuck. They're told money is evil, money is dirty, money doesn't matter. That's the script the powerful feed you, so you stay comfortable being powerless. Because if you reject money, you'll never fight for it, and they get to keep control. Now ask yourself, who really benefits when you believe money isn't important? Not you, not your family. The only people who benefit are the ones who already have it. Money is freedom. If you don't believe me, look at the difference between someone living paycheck to paycheck and someone financially free. One spends their life begging their boss for a raise, fearing layoffs and hoping bills don't crush them this month. The other wakes up and decides what to do with their day. Not because they're smarter, but because money gave them the power to choose. And here's the darker truth. The system is built to make sure you don't see money this way. You're told to chase it just enough to survive, but not enough to escape. That's why schools didn't teach you about wealth. That's why society glorifies struggle and sacrifice. Because a population that struggles financially is easy to control, but when you flip the script, when you decide to master money instead of being mastered by it, you stop being a pawn in their game. Money buys influence. Money buys time. Money buys freedom. It doesn't make you moral or immoral, it simply amplifies who you already are. A good person with money can change lives. A bad person with money can destroy them. But in both cases, money is the amplifier of power. Let's make it personal. Think about every major stress in your life. How many of them would vanish, or at least shrink, if money wasn't a problem?
Debt, bills, lack of time with family, fear of emergencies, almost all of them trace back to money.
That's why the statement, "money isn't everything," feels hollow. Because without money, you're trapped, fighting the same battles every single day. Now here's where the shift happens. If you want true power in your life, you need to stop demonizing money and start mastering it. That means changing how you see it. Money is not evil.
Scarcity is.
Scarcity keeps you small, desperate, and dependent. Abundance gives you choices, leverage, and influence. The world is not fair. Power doesn't go to the most kind, the most honest, or the most hardworking. It goes to those who understand the role of money and learn to use it. And if you don't take that seriously, you'll always be living by someone else's rules. So, the next time someone tells you money isn't everything, ask yourself, are they saying that because they're free, or because they've given up on ever being free? Part 4. Inflation steals your money. You thought you were saving money?
Wrong. Every single day, even while you sleep, someone is stealing your wealth.
And they don't even need to break into your house. Let's face it. You were told since childhood, save money, save money, save money. Parents, teachers, even society drilled it into your head. But here's the dark truth. The system was laughing while you did it. Because while you stacked those savings, inflation was quietly reaching into your pocket
and stealing it away. What exactly is inflation? Most people don't even fully get it.
Inflation means your money loses value over time. The same $100 that bought you groceries 10 years ago can't even fill half a cart today. Your money hasn't changed, but what you can buy with it has shrunk. That's financial theft in slow motion. Now here's the cruel trick. While banks proudly show you 0.5% interest on your savings account, inflation silently eats away at 3, 4, sometimes 7% of your money every single year. Do the math. Your safe savings account is actually making you poorer. Let's put it in real terms. Imagine you saved $10,000 under your bed or in a low-interest account. After 20 years, at just 3% inflation, that money buys what only $500 buys today.
Half of it gone. Not stolen in one night.
Stolen slowly, drip by drip, year by year. And yet, most people celebrate saving money. They think keeping cash in the bank is responsible. No one told them the truth. If your money isn't growing faster than inflation, you're on a treadmill going backwards. Now here's the darkest part. Inflation doesn't hurt everyone equally. It hurts the poor and middle class the most because they hold cash. They save in banks, they hoard in savings accounts, they live paycheck to paycheck. Meanwhile, the wealthy, they don't hold cash, they hold assets. Real estate, stocks, businesses, commodities. And those assets don't just beat inflation, they grow far faster than it. This is why the wealth gap keeps exploding. The average person is saving themselves poorer, while the wealthy are investing themselves richer. Same world, different game. Think about the last 20 years. Housing prices doubled, tripled in some places. Stock markets multiplied. But your salary? It barely kept up with basic costs. And your bank savings? Worth less every year.
This isn't an accident.
This is the system designed to keep you dependent. The system needs you saving cash because cash devalues. While the elite take that cash through debt, mortgages, and credit payments and reinvest it into assets that grow, your fear of risk becomes their power of wealth. Now ask yourself, what's more dangerous? Losing a little in the stock market during a bad year, or losing value every single year guaranteed because of inflation? Most people don't even realize that playing it safe is the most dangerous thing they can do financially. Inflation is the silent tax. You don't vote for it, you don't see it, but it takes more from you than the government ever could. It's a tax on the poor and a gift to the rich. Want proof? Look at 2020, 2022. Inflation spiked globally. Food prices doubled.
Rent skyrocketed.
Gas prices hit record highs.
Who suffered?
The average family struggling to pay bills.
Who thrived?
The wealthy who owned real estate, oil companies, and stocks. Their net worths didn't shrink, they exploded. This is the ugly truth. The game isn't just about making money, it's about protecting it from being stolen silently. And until you understand inflation, you'll stay on the hamster wheel forever. Here's the shift. Don't just save, invest.
Every dollar must be working harder than inflation.
If inflation is 4%, your investments must beat 4%.
That's the bare minimum.
Otherwise, you're bleeding wealth. Let me put it brutally clear. Saving money in cash is financial suicide. It feels safe in the short term, but guarantees poverty in the long term. The only escape is learning the rules of investing, owning real assets, and putting your money in places where inflation can't touch it. So, the next time you pat yourself on the back for saving $1,000 in your bank account, ask yourself, did I just save, or did I just agree to lose value every day while the wealthy laugh? Part 5. Playing it safe is the riskiest strategy. They told you to play it safe. Save your money, get a stable job, avoid risk. But what if I told you that's the most dangerous advice you'll ever follow? We've all been programmed with the same script. Don't take risks. Play it safe. Go to school, get a stable job, save your money, and someday you'll retire peacefully.
Sounds comforting, right?
But let's ask the hard question. How many people you know actually lived that dream? The reality is brutal. Playing it safe isn't safe anymore. In fact, it's the fastest way to guarantee struggle. Why? Because the world has changed. The rules of money, work, and opportunity don't look anything like they did 50 years ago. Back then, a factory job could pay for a house, raise a family, and fund retirement. Today, a so-called stable job barely pays the bills, let alone builds wealth. Let's break it down. When you play it safe financially, what do? You keep your money in a bank savings account, earning 1% interest while inflation eats away 5%. You think you're protecting your wealth, but you're actually losing it slowly. When you play it safe with your career, what happens? You depend on a single paycheck. One boss, one company, one recession away from disaster. If that job disappears, your entire life collapses.
That's not safety.
That's fragility. When you play it safe with your dreams, what do? You avoid risk, avoid discomfort, avoid failure. But in avoiding failure, you also avoid growth. You avoid opportunity. You avoid everything that could have changed your life. Playing it safe is just a comfortable way of guaranteeing mediocrity. Here's the twist. Real safety comes from taking smart risks. Because risk isn't the enemy, ignorance is. You can't avoid risk. You can only choose which risks you want to take. There's the risk of investing in yourself, starting a business, building skills, or creating wealth. And there's the risk of doing nothing, staying the same, trapped, and watching your time run out. Look at history's wealthiest, most successful people.
None of them played it safe.
Entrepreneurs, investors, innovators, they all took risks. Not reckless ones, but calculated ones. They understood that safety doesn't come from hiding, it comes from building. Now ask yourself, is your safe strategy actually safe, or is it a slow-motion trap? Think about someone who saved money their whole life. They avoided investing because it felt risky. Now, decades later, they realize their savings don't even cover their retirement because inflation destroyed it. That wasn't safety. That was a risk disguised as safety. Or think about the employee who stayed at one job for 30 years, loyal to the company, only to get laid off right before retirement. That wasn't safety. That was blind trust in a system that never cared. The truth is this: life itself is risky. Every single path has risks. You risk health, money, time, relationships. The only question is, are you choosing risks that can lead to growth or risks that guarantee regret? The system wants you to play it safe. Why? Because safe people are predictable. Safe people follow orders. Safe people don't question. They clock in, they clock out, and they stay small. But the ones who step outside, who dare to take calculated risks, they're the ones who break free. And here's the dark irony. While you're being told to play it safe, the people giving you that advice are taking risks themselves. Banks risk your savings in investments. Corporations risk billions to grow. The government risks your future by printing money endlessly. They take risks with your life while telling you not to take any with your own. So let me flip the script. The riskiest move is pretending you're safe when you're not. The safest move is learning to manage risk, embrace it, and use it as leverage. Safety doesn't come from avoiding risk.
It comes from controlling it.
Diversifying income streams,
Learning skills, owning assets, creating instead of just consuming.
that's how you turn risk into security. Let's make it personal. Picture yourself 10 years from now. If you keep playing it safe, what does your life look like? Same paycheck, same routine, same struggle. Safe or stuck? Now picture yourself taking smart risks, investing, building, learning, creating. Maybe you fail at first, but each failure teaches you. Each move builds momentum. Which future feels more alive? The truth is, the advice to play it safe isn't advice, it's a trap. A polite way of telling you to stay small.
To never test your limit.
To never chase real freedom. But you're not here to live small. You're here to grow, to risk, to play the game at a higher level. Part 6. The elite control the game. You think you're free? You think you're in control? The truth is, the game was rigged long before you even started playing.
And the players who control it?
You'll never see their faces. Let's strip away the illusion. You go to school, get a job, pay your bills, maybe save a little. You think you're making your own choices. But what if I told you almost every option you've been given was already designed by someone else? The truth is, the world is not run by politicians.
It's not run by celebrities.
It's not even run by the people you see on the news every day. It's run by a small group, the elite, families, corporations, and institutions who pull the strings from the shadows. Think about it. Who prints the money you work your entire life to earn? Not you, not your government. Central banks, private institutions.
And when they decide to print more money, who suffers?
You. Your savings shrink. Your future shrinks. Meanwhile, the elite who own assets grow richer every time. Who controls the media you consume daily? A handful of corporations. They decide what you hear, what you don't hear, what stories are amplified, and which truths are buried. Your opinions, your fears, your beliefs, they shape them carefully, so you never question too much. Who controls the politicians you vote for? Campaign donations, lobbyists, corporations. Do you really think laws are written for you? Or are they written for the people funding those campaigns? Look at tax loopholes. The wealthy don't pay the same percentage you do.
They don't need to.
They wrote the rules. This is the game. Control money, control information, control laws. And once you control those 3 pillars, you don't need violence. You can control entire populations without them ever realizing it. Now let's get darker. The elite don't just play defense, they play offense. They create cycles of boom and bust. Recessions, market crashes, inflation spikes. You think they're accidents? Look closer. Every crash transfers wealth. Ordinary people lose their savings, their homes, their jobs. The elite? They buy assets cheap, and when the economy recovers, they're richer than ever. Millions lost homes, but the elite bought entire neighborhoods. 2020, businesses collapsed, jobs vanished. But billionaires, they gain trillions. Crisis isn't bad for them. Crisis is strategy, and here's the most chilling part. They don't even hide it. They call it the system. They publish books, reports, even TED Talks about the Great Reset, the future of money, the new economy. They tell you what's coming because they know you won't fight back. Why? Because you're too busy working, paying bills, trying to survive. Now you might wonder, if the game is so rigged, do we even stand a chance? The answer is yes, but only if you wake up. The first step is realizing the system is designed, not natural. Inflation isn't natural. Debt culture isn't natural. Endless consumption isn't natural. They're manufactured tools to keep you working for them. The elite don't want you to be wealthy. They want you to be dependent. That's why financial education is missing in schools. That's why debt is marketed as normal. That's why hard work is glorified, while ownership and leverage are hidden. Because a worker who stays busy and broke will never question who owns the factory. Let me give you a picture. Imagine life as a board game like Monopoly. But when you sit down to play, the elite already own half the board. They own Boardwalk, Park Place, the railroads, the utilities. You start with a tiny paycheck, they start with assets. Every time you pass go, you hand them rent?
How can you win when they already wrote the rules?
The answer is, you can't play by their rules and expect to win. You have to learn their game. Ownership, assets, networks, knowledge. That's how you step out of being a pawn and start becoming a player. And here's the biggest wake-up call. The elite don't fear your anger. They don't fear your complaints. They only fear your education. Because once you understand money, power, and systems, you stop being a worker and you start being a competitor. Part 7, mind control through media and fear. You think your thoughts are yours? Think again.
Every headline, every ad, every breaking news alert is designed for one purpose: to control you through fear. Let's get brutally real.
Most people walk around believing they make their own choices, what to buy, what to believe, who to trust. But here's the truth. Your thoughts, your fears, even your daily habits, they've been engineered. By who? By the media, by corporations, by the elite who understand one thing: control the mind, and you control the person. The most powerful weapon isn't a gun.
It isn't an army, it's fear.
Fear bypasses logic. Fear silences questioning. Fear makes you obey. And the media is the perfect delivery system. Look at the news. What do you see? Crisis, violence, scandal, disaster. Why?
Because fear keeps you watching.
Fear keeps you glued to the screen. And the more you watch, the more ads they sell, the more narratives they push. Fear is profitable. Think about it. How often do you see headlines like, "Everything is fine," or "Life is improving"?
Almost never. Peace doesn't sell, panic does.
And every ounce of panic wires your brain a little tighter into their system. Advertising works the same way. First, they break your confidence. They make you feel not good enough, not beautiful enough, not successful enough. Then they sell you the solution: a product, a lifestyle, a brand. The cycle is endless. Create fear, then sell comfort. But it goes deeper. Media doesn't just sell products, it sells beliefs. They tell you who the enemy is, who to blame, what to fear next. Entire populations can be manipulated with a single narrative. Wars have started, economies have crashed, societies have split, all because of fear pumped through screens. And here's the chilling part. When you live in constant fear, you stop thinking critically. You stop asking questions. Your brain shifts into survival mode. And a population stuck in survival mode, that's the easiest population to control. Look back at the last few years. Global crises, lockdowns, protests, fear was everywhere. Fear of disease, fear of collapse, fear of the unknown. And while people were distracted and terrified, the powerful quietly shifted wealth, passed laws and tightened their grip.
Fear wasn't just a side effect, it was the strategy. This isn't new.
Go back centuries, and rulers used fear of the unknown, fear of gods, fear of punishment, fear of enemies to keep people obedient. The only thing that's changed is the technology. Now, it's not priests or kings, it's screens in your pocket. It's the endless feed of notifications, alerts, and breaking news. Now, here's the question. If fear is so powerful, how do you escape it? The first step is awareness. Recognize the pattern.
Ask yourself, why are they telling me that?
Who benefits from me being afraid? The moment you stop reacting automatically, you break the first chain. The second step is control of your attention.
Because attention is currency.
Every minute you spend glued to fear-driven media is a minute you're paying them in power. Learn to disconnect. Learn to think for yourself. Learn to choose what enters your mind. And third, replace fear with the knowledge. Fear thrives in ignorance. When you don't understand money, systems, or history, fear controls you. But when you do, fear loses its grip.
Knowledge turns the unknown into strategy. Here's the brutal truth. The media doesn't care about your well-being. They care about your obedience.
They don't want you empowered. They want you distracted, divided, and afraid.
Because afraid people don't fight back.
Afraid people don't question. Afraid people obey. So the next time you catch yourself panicking over a headline, stop. Ask yourself, is this my fear, or is this fear being sold to me? Part 8, the illusion of freedom. You were told you're free.
Free to live, free to choose, free to control your destiny.
But look closer. The freedom you celebrate is nothing more than an illusion. Ask yourself, what does freedom really mean? Most people define it as the ability to make their own choices, to live life on their terms. But when you strip away the surface, how many of your choices are truly yours? You wake up and go to work, not because you want to, but because bills demand it. You pay taxes, not because you choose to, but because the system demands it. You save money only to watch inflation erode it. You vote for leaders, but the real decisions are made by lobbyists and billionaires behind closed doors. Is that freedom? Or is it just the illusion of freedom? Here's the truth. You are free enough to feel independent, but controlled enough to never break out. It's the perfect balance for the system. Too much restriction and people rebel.
Too much freedom and people escape control.
So they built a middle ground, freedom wrapped in invisible chains. Think about it.
You're free to choose your career.
From a list of jobs already defined by corporations.
You're free to choose your leaders.
From candidates pre-selected and funded by the elite.
You're free to spend your money
on products advertised by the same companies that own the media. Your freedom exists inside boundaries they created. It's like a cage painted with beautiful colors. You don't see the bars because you're distracted by the artwork, but try stepping too far out and you'll hit the walls.
That's the illusion and the cruelest part.
Most people never even notice. They celebrate small wins as if they were ultimate victories. A raise at work feels like freedom. Buying a house feels like freedom. But look deeper. Your raise gets swallowed by taxes and inflation. Your house is technically owned by the bank until the mortgage is paid. That's lifelong debt disguised as achievement. History shows this pattern clearly. In ancient times, rulers controlled populations with chains and whips. Today, control is softer, cleaner, hidden.
You're not whipped, you're managed.
You're not chained, you're indebted.
You're not imprisoned, you're distracted.
The result is the same, obedience. And here's the irony. The illusion of freedom is more powerful than open control.
Because when people know they're not free,
But when they believe they're free, they never fight back. They police themselves, defend the system, even attack anyone who questions it. That's the genius of modern control. Now pause for a moment and reflect. What are the biggest choices in your life right now? Your job, your home,
your savings?
How many of those are truly under your control? And how many are dictated by forces you never voted for? This isn't meant to create despair. It's meant to create awareness. Because once you see the illusion, you can stop playing the part of the puppet. You may not control everything, but you can start reclaiming pieces of your freedom. Freedom doesn't come from permission. It comes from power. And power, in today's world, comes from three things: knowledge, ownership, and independence. The more you understand the system, the less it can trick you. The more you own your money, your time, your decisions, the less dependent you are. And the more independent you become, the closer you get to true freedom. The system wants you to believe you're powerless. That's the final illusion. But the moment you see the bars of the cage, you're no longer blind. You can start testing the limits. You can start planning the escape. So here's the final question. Will you spend your life defending an illusion? Or will you have the courage to step outside it? Closing, now you know the truth. School didn't prepare you, the system isn't built for you, and the freedom you thought you had was just an illusion. But awareness is the first step, because once you see the game, you can choose how to play it. Most people will stay asleep, but a few will wake up. The question is, are you ready to be one of them,